Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Imagination. That's what we're going to explore a little today, and you're very welcome to today's episode. I've often find that I think most people gloss over the great gift that we have as humans, which one of them is our imagination. And the root word of imagination is imagine, and the word imagine originated originally from the Latin word imaginari, which means to form a mental picture or to picture oneself. And obviously over time, imagination, the word has evolved to have a broader meaning beyond just even visualizing or picturing something. It probably now refers to an ability of your mind to create or invent new things, new ideas, concepts, images, and maybe even to go beyond what's immediately present and to explore possibilities, make connections, and generate unique and creative thoughts. And famously, Einstein said something along the lines of imagination is more important than knowledge. It's quite a strong statement to make, if you think about it. And I think what we're going to see more and more in the coming years is the value, but also the need for more imagination to come into our societies, into our schools, into our businesses. Because I think AI in particular is going to show that, knowledge isn't power. Especially when you've got something like AI that can give you knowledge in the ways that it's showing us it can. I think the human capacity to imagine is going to become increasingly valuable and essential. So in terms of bringing us into today's episode, I suppose the key point I want to make here is that what I'm saying is that imagination opens doors to new possibilities, but it can also close us off into mental prisons. And that's what I mean by it can be a gift, but it can also be a curse. It can be a gift and open up new possibilities and expand what we can create together and individually, but also then be a curse because it can close us off into self-created mental prisons without very often realizing it. So just explore that a little bit on both sides, the gift and the curse. I think on the gift side, some of it's obvious. You can dream things that never were through your imagination. That's what we do. On one level, if you can see it, you can create it. I've been lucky to have learned some of this stuff years ago, and I've used my imagination to create a fulfilling life and a business that I love. And most of that started in my imagination. I think maybe going back years ago when I came out of depression and started to explore the inner world, I couldn't have imagined even my life now. So your imagination expands as you experience more, once you're open to possibilities. And sometimes that's also part of what you have to do in terms of managing yourself, I find, is to not allow your imagination to shut off possibilities, because it can do that too. That's maybe on the curse side. If you've been listening to this podcast over the last 12 months, I've mentioned every now and again, I've been working on a book. It's called The Inner CEO. It's coming out in October. I think the official launch date looks like it's going to be the 20th of October, which is exciting. But in the book, I talk, one of the aspects I talk about is your imagination. And I talk about an analogy around the projector, a movie projector. Now, I'm not going to go into that in detail here. I might do that maybe as a special episode closer to the book launch. But the principle of having a projector, or a projector analogy, is that your mind is like a projector, like as in what you play in it, expands in your mind, but also what you play in your mind as a projector, you feel. And that's what imagination is. Whatever you imagine, whatever you play in that movie projector of your mind, you feel. So if you play a horror movie in your mind, you will feel scared. If you play a stress movie, you will feel scared. If you play an ambitious movie, maybe you feel like the hero. If you play a happy movie, mate, you will feel happiness. Sorry, as an aside as well, I should mention, it's in the show notes on whatever podcast app you're listening to this, that there's a special offer at the moment for my previous book, Inspire Me. You get it for free. Just pay the shipping. No gimmicks, no nothing. It's just a straightforward offer. Lots of people have taken up. It'll probably end, I would say, at the end of July, depending on when you're listening to this. So the link is in the show notes. So it's a free book offer. Just pay the shipping. Enough on that. So going back to the imagination, in a business context, great salespeople, for example, use their imagination in very creative and constructive ways. They will imagine the end results. They'll imagine a relationship forming. They'll imagine themselves persisting. They'll imagine themselves getting the sale. And they can hold that. They don't get distracted, where the average salesperson will very often imagine the negative outcomes and put themselves off mentally and not realize it. And actually, the same holds true for great performers in any field. You could be a music conductor, a soccer player, a sports star, a business person, a CEO. All great performers, people who are great in any field, they all, and very, very often it's unconscious until they perhaps read a book about it, or maybe talk to somebody like me where they realize, oh, hold on, actually I do that, where they imagine great results. They imagine themselves performing very well. Nobody ever told them. They just got blessed that that's what happened. But here's the good news. Doesn't matter if you knew it or not, or if you're doing it or not, you can start today. Like, what does success, that question, like, what does success look like for you? The power of that is that you want to imagine it. Now, here's the thing. Does it guarantee anything, imagining success? No, it doesn't. Not in terms of results anyway. If I imagine getting a certain result, that doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, I have to put in the work. But what I would say is that it does guarantee a better feeling inside you, which is a big help. Now, it also definitely increases, I think, the probability of you succeeding, because it does affect your mind in terms of what it focuses on. So you're much more inclined, I think, to hit the target if you're imagining yourself hitting the target. I remember doing the same thing myself, even in archery for fun, where you can practice imagining the target. And after a while, like even if you've never done it before, you do find that actually your target starts to improve if you can hold your attention on seeing yourself, imagining yourself hitting the target. Now, if you flip it on the other way, the negative side, the curse, your imagination can shut you down. And often it does, maybe without you realizing it. I know with a lot of my clients, certainly at different parts of the journey, maybe when I first meet them, they might be imagining failure in a certain context. Now that might be at a macro level, maybe with a business, or it could be just on a micro level in terms of failing to lead or failing in a situation. I think a common universal one is meetings. You know, most people can scare themselves in advance before meeting someone that they don't particularly want to meet. Maybe the last time they met, they had a difficult experience, and that happens. But now we're going to meet them today, and all of a sudden your imagination is playing scenarios in your mind, and you're not realizing that is, in a way, going to change your state, and it's going to hugely affect how you are in that meeting. Some people can literally be scaring themselves to death with their imagination. And very often most people do. And it can happen to the best of the best. You mightn't do it now, but maybe you've fallen into a period where, maybe you get a few punches, life throws a few punches, as we all know. And without realizing it, all of a sudden now you're imagining negative scenarios, and you can very quickly then move yourself into the start of a negative spiral. And if you're not careful, that can slip all the way down into depression. So it's worth noting. Most people don't consider very often that they can do it to themselves. And that's not that they can, it's that they do. So the bottom line is with imagination, that you are making it up. What's playing in that projector of your mind? You're the director, like you are making it up. So why not at least play something that makes you feel better? Now, as I said, it doesn't guarantee the results will go your way. But if you think about it, if you feel better, you generally think better. If you think better, you generally perform better. So at least you've got a better probability of achieving success, no matter who you are or what you do. And I think the thing that surprised me the most over my career to date is that as I've gone on working with more senior, experienced, perhaps even in some cases well-known people in sport and in business, that it's been interesting to me to observe, no matter who you are, no matter what stage in your career you're at, how successful you may or may not be, this can catch you out if you're not fully aware. And it does. Your imagination is a curse or a gift. Question is, which way are we using it? It's funny as well. I'm thinking of a simple thing, like getting a health test. You go into the doctor, let's have a health check. Standard stuff. Maybe you're getting something checked out because there's a problem. And then you get a message. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's an email. Hey, can you come in and see the doctor? In that scenario, what will your imagination do? I mean, I've been in that scenario. People close to me have been in that scenario. And it's funny to watch how people's minds can run away with themselves. Some people can jump into really negative diagnosis and say, oh my God, this must be something really bad. Otherwise, why would they call? But that doesn't mean it's going to be that way. I've been in a situation where people were convinced it's going to be bad news, and I've gone in with them or been with them even afterwards, and it was good news. But they literally terrified themselves before that happened. It's a very human thing. But we do have a choice. It doesn't mean bad things doesn't happen, but it's a question of how we use our imagination to support us. So thinking about yourself and thinking about, in a way, your own imagination inside, that part of you, it's always working. It's always on. It could be imagining dinner. It could be imagining a break. It could be imagining something you really, really want to do. So think about perhaps the important areas of your life. What are you imagining about them? Like, write it down. Make yourself a little bit more aware of what's perhaps at the back of your mind, not at the front. And then be honest. Is it serving you? I guarantee if you dig around like that, you'll find at least one area that isn't really serving you. And then the question will be, do you want to change it? And I think the nice thing to know is that you can. You're the director of your mind. You're the director of that movie. Even though your mind might give you all sorts of reasons as to why it's imagining what it's imagining, it's still making it up, usually based on the past memory. And imagination generally is obviously about the future. A lot of people can feel very anxious about the future, but again, who knows? Who can predict what's going to happen? Certainly, I found in my own life that the more I imagine better things for me, for other people, it doesn't guarantee success or results, but it does really seem to increase the probability of it, and it does make a difference to what's happened. So I'm going to keep using it. I think my only regret looking back is perhaps I didn't start using it earlier, and maybe in a bigger way. Again, not taking away from the fact that I really just enjoy what you have, and not to stay in your imagination either. That's not going to be good either. Bottom line anyway here today is use your imagination. Don't let it use you. Ciao for now.